Hello everyone, my name is Chris and welcome to my all-unique one-handed weapons within Skyrim. This guide will showcase and explain how to get each unique one-handed weapon of every category. Some weapons will look identical to that of their normal weapon counterparts and others will have a completely unique look to them. As always, there are timestamps in the description if you wish to skip to a particular weapon, but without further ado, let's get into the video. We'll start off with the weapons in the Dagger category. First is Alessandra's Dagger. This weapon is a unique iron dagger and can be obtained from Alessandra in Riften. Head into the city and make your way into the Hall of the Dead. Once inside, speak to Alessandra and assist her with returning her father's dagger to his body in Whiterun. Upon accepting the quest, she will give you the dagger.
Dagger to Anders, the caretaker. I believe once it's interred with my father's remains, I'll be at peace with his memory. I hadn't asked you because I was afraid you'd say no. I appreciate your help.
You will only have this weapon as long as you do not turn in the quest. As this is a quest weapon, it is useful if you wish for a weapon when entering jail, for example, as the weapon will not be taken from you. The dagger has the same damage as a steel dagger, dealing 5 points of damage, however weighs less, having a weight of 1 instead of 2.5. Next up is the Blade of Woe. This weapon is its own unique weapon and has a drain health enchantment. There are 2 ways to acquire this weapon. Depending on what option you choose, you will need to start the Dark Brotherhood questline. For the first method, progress the storyline until the leader of the Dark Brotherhood, Astrid, kidnaps you. Once awoken, the first method to acquire the blade is simply to kill her.
The anticipation. Well done.
Once done, you can loot the weapon from her corpse. The second method is to complete the Dark Brotherhood questline until you get to the quest Death Incarnate. You will find Astrid burned and laid out as a living form of the Black Sacrament. You can loot the blade next to her before killing her. The weapon has the highest base damage if no DLC is installed, however if one has the Dragonbane DLC installed then it has the same base damage as the Dragonbane dagger. This comes at the cost of the weapon weighing more from 6.5 to 7. Additionally, the blade will absorb 10 points of health from an enemy upon a successful hit. Next up is the Blade of Sacrifice. This weapon, although not only the one of its kind, is a unique ebony dagger. This weapon can only be obtained after the player reaches level 30. Once at this level, you will need to head to the Sakhalum of Borvir. Once here, speak to the priestess and accept the Daedric quest Borvir's Calling. The priestess will give you a blade and instruct you to bring a companion to the shrine to be sacrificed. If you wish to obtain more copies of the weapon, once you sacrifice your chosen companion, Borvir will instruct you to kill the rest of the devotees. Each one of them carries a blade of sacrifice which you can then loot from their corpses.
Plant the ceremonial blade deeply, so that the waters of his heart wash over you. If your will is strong enough, it will stir Borvir in her dark mansion, and she will appear before us.
The blade deals the same damage as an ebony dagger of 10, however has a lower weight from 5 to 4. Next up is Bloodthorn. This weapon is a unique steel dagger and comes enchanted with the Soul Trap enchantment as well as an absorb health enchantment despite the description not saying so. This weapon can be found at Hag's End. Fight your way through the location until you get to the very top of the mountain with the word wall. Immediately after exiting, turn right where you will find Bloodthorn on the balcony. If fighting a Hagraven, due to them using spells such as Fireball, it is possible for the weapon to be knocked off the ledge, so be wary of that. The weapon has identical stats to that of a normal steel dagger, however has the Soul Trap enchantment which if you kill a target within 3 seconds it will fill an empty soul gem. Additionally it has the absorb health enchantment despite not showing so on the weapon which will absorb 10 points of health from an enemy. Next up is Borvir's Dagger. This weapon is a unique Elven dagger. The weapon can be found at Journeyman's Nook. Head into the ruin and near the corpse of Borvir will be the weapon. All stats of the weapon are identical to that of a normal Elven dagger. Next up is Kahzovein's Fang. This weapon is a unique Dragon Priest dagger. The weapon is radiant and will appear in one of the end of dungeon chests of the named Dragon Priest. I have a guide on where each named Dragon Priest is which you can watch here. The weapon is also a quest item and cannot be dropped or removed from your inventory until the quest Alteration Ritual spell has been completed. You will need your alteration to be level 90 or above. The weapon has a damage of 6 and has a weight of 5. Next up is Keening. This weapon is its own unique dagger and is given as a quest reward during the quest Arniel's Endeavour. You will need to finish the quest hitting the books at the College of Winterhold before being able to accept this quest. Once done, speak to Arniel and ask him if there's anything else he needs help with. You will need to help Arniel 4 times. Upon the final time helping him, he will use keening on a warped soul gem which will cause him to disappear. You can then pick the dagger up for yourself off the floor with the normal enchantment.
It may not be official, but there is a project I've been working on. I wonder if perhaps you could assist with it.
Keening has a base damage of 8 and has a weight of 4. Keening also bears the unique enchantment Keening's Sting, which cannot be disenchanted to learn. In addition to its damage, the weapon's enchantment also allows the weapon to have a chance to deal 10 points of health, magicka and stamina damage upon a strike. Next up is Mehrunes Razor. This weapon is its own unique dagger and is a potential quest reward during the quest Pieces of the Past. You will not be able to acquire this weapon until you are at least level 20. Once at that level, head to Dawnstar and make your way all the way to the last house in Dawnstar. Speak to Silas and accept his job of acquiring the pieces of Mehrunes Razor. This will start the quest Pieces of the Past.
One of these groups found Mehrunes Razor, the artifact of Dagon. They split it into 3 fragments and pledged to keep them apart forever. At least 2 of the owners, Gunzel and Dra. Here are my notes about them. I'll gladly pay you for getting the pieces any way you can. No questions asked.
Collect all pieces, return them to Silas, which he will then ask you to meet him at Mehrunes Dagon's shrine. When communing with Dagon, you must side with him and kill Silas. If you do not, you will not get the weapon as a reward.
Kill Silas. He and his family have served their purpose.
Once Silas is dead, Mehrunes will repair the razor and allow you to keep it.
Use it to wreak havoc on Tamriel. Before you go mortal.
The razor deals a damage of 11 and has a weight of 3. The razor also has its own unique enchantment, giving the player a 2% chance of instantly killing a target upon a successful hit. The enchantment never runs out and the weapon never needs to be recharged. The only NPCs immune to this effect is Miraak and Karstag, both from the Dragonbane DLC. Next up is Nettlebane. This weapon is a unique ebony dagger and can be acquired during the quest The Blessings of Nature. Head to Whiterun and make your way to the Gilder Green outside the Temple of Kinnereth. Speak to Danica and ask about how the tree can be repaired. She will task you with retrieving Nettlebane for the quest.
Our tree here in the city was grown from a cutting of that tree. You can still feel the glory of the mother tree through it. You'll have to deal with the hag ravens. I've heard about the weapon they've made for sacrificing Spriggans. It's called Nettlebane. The hags terrify me, or I would have gone after it myself.
Head on over to Orphan Rock, fight through the hags and finally kill the Hagraven. On her corpse will be the weapon. The weapon, despite being unique, is worse than an ebony dagger, having a decrease in damage from 10 to 6 as well as an increase in weight from 5 to 10. Next up is Rundi's Dagger. This weapon is a unique steel dagger and can be acquired at an unmarked location just southeast of Winterhold. Start in Winterhold and continue away southeast. Once far enough you will come across an altar and Rundi's corpse. On the edge of the altar will be the dagger. Despite being unique, the weapon has identical stats to that of a normal steel dagger. Next up are the Lunar weapons. These weapons consist of a Lunar sword, mace and war axe. These weapons can be found within the Silent Moon's camp. These weapons will either spawn as iron or steel depending on the player's level. Despite being able to disenchant the weapons to learn the enchantment, there is only one of each of these weapons in the game. Each Lunar weapon comes equipped with the Silent Moon's enchantment. Head to the camp, make your way all the way up the stairs and into the Nordic ruin. In the centre will be the Lunar forge and around the room will be the weapons. Each Lunar weapon is identical to that of its normal counterpart, however the enchantment allows the weapons to deal between 10 and 20 damage depending on the player's level between the hours of 9 and 5. The final dagger is Valdr's Lucky Dagger. This weapon is a unique steel dagger and can be acquired during the quest Hunter and Hunted. Head to Moss Mother Cavern and you will find an injured Valdr outside. Offer to help him clear the cave of Spriggans and avenge his companion.
Name's Valdr. I hunt out of Falkreath. We tracked a bear to this den. Good coin for those pelts. We had the big sow cornered when they showed up. 3 of them, out of nowhere.
The weapon has identical stats to that of a normal steel dagger, however has the unique effect of having a 25% chance of dealing a critical hit upon a successful strike. Upon doing so, Valdr will give you the dagger as a reward.
Look, I want you to have this. I know it isn't much, but it's important to me. Ari gave me this dagger when we first started hunting together. I always said it brought her luck. You should be the one to carry it now.
Next up are the unique maces. The first and only mace is the Mace of Molag. This is its own unique mace and comes equipped with its own unique enchantment. This weapon is a quest reward when completing the Daedric quest The House of Horrors. Head to Markarth and head a short ways forward where you will see a Vigilant of Stendarr outside the house. Accept his request for help and follow the quest to completion.
Seen anyone enter or leave? Seems no one in this city has. I'm with the Vigil of Stendarr. I believe this house might have been used for Daedra worship, legal rites and so forth. I was actually just about to head on inside. Good to have someone watch my back.
Once Logrov gives his soul to Molag and you kill him a final time, he will give you the mace as a reward.
Blackball. I submit.
Kill him.
No.
The Mace of Molag. I give you its true power, mortal.
The weapon has a damage of 16 and has a weight of 18. The weapon also has its own unique enchantment which allows the mace to deal 25 points of additional stamina and magicka damage. And finally it also has the soul trap enchantment on top where if you kill a target within 3 seconds and you have an adequate empty soul gem it will fill it. Next up are the unique swords. First up is Amren's family sword. This is a unique iron sword and can be obtained during the quest Amren's Sword. Head on over to Whiterun and speak to Amren. Ask him about his family sword and he will ask you to help him in retrieving it.
Father's old sword. He fed his entire family with the gold he made using that weapon. I'm not about to let it gather dust in some thief's trophy room. I tracked it to a group of bandits nearby, but I'm no fool. I'd need the Whiterun guards or maybe hire the companions to get it. I don't know why I'm saying this, but if you find it out in your travels, I'd be grateful to you.
Despite it being a unique weapon, all stats are identical to that of a normal iron sword. The sword will then spawn in a random dungeon. Simply head there and you loot the weapon. Please note that turning in the quest will make the sword unobtainable. Next up is Bolar's Oathblade. This is a unique blade sword and can be found at Bloated Man's Grotto. Be aware that you won't be able to acquire this weapon until you start the quest Ill Met by Moonlight and have to hunt Sinding. Head into the grotto and follow the right hand path. Continue up a set of stone stairs and follow the path around until you get to a shrine of Talos on the left hand side. At the base of the statue of Talos will be the weapon. Despite it being a unique weapon, the weapon has identical stats to that of a normal blade sword. The weapon does come equipped with its own enchantment, dealing an additional 25 points of stamina damage as well as making creatures and people up to level 12 flee from combat for 30 seconds. Next up is a Ceremonial sword. This weapon is a unique ancient Nord sword. This weapon is a quest item and can be found inside of Volumruud. During the side quest Silence Tongues you will need to acquire 2 weapons, one of them being the sword within the ruin. Despite it being a unique weapon, all stats are identical to that of a normal ancient Nord sword. Next up is Chillrend. This weapon is a unique glass sword. This weapon is only accessible outside of glitches when the player starts the Thieves Guild quest The Pursuit. Head into Riften and continue through into Riftweald Manor. Head down to the ground level and head through the fake wardrobe into the sewer section and make your way all the way to the end. In the right hand side of the room in the display case will be the sword. Chillrend has several versions and the item that spawns is entirely dependent on the player's level. The weapon has a max rank when the player is level 46 or higher. Chillrend bears the unique Frostfeed enchantment which the weapon cannot be disenchanted to learn. At the highest level the weapon deals 30 points of frost damage and has the chance to paralyze a target for 2 seconds. Next up is Dawnbreaker. This weapon is its own unique sword and is a quest reward during the quest The Break of Dawn. You won't be able to start this quest until you are at least level 12. Once at this level, head to the statue of Meridia where you will need to help the Daedric Prince Meridia.
I have brought you here, mortal, to be my champion. You will enter my temple, retrieve my artifact, and destroy the Defiler.
At the end of the quest, you will receive the weapon as a reward.
It is done. The Defiler is defeated. Take Dawnbreaker from its pedestal.
Dawnbreaker bears the unique enchantment Meridia's Retribution, which with this weapon cannot be disenchanted to learn. Dawnbreaker deals 12 damage and deals 10 points of additional burn damage. Upon killing undead with the weapon, it has the chance to trigger a fiery explosion that will either kill or turn undead within a certain radius. Next up is Dragonbane. This weapon is a unique blade sword. Please note that you won't be able to acquire this weapon until you start the main story quest Alduin's Wall. Once started, this weapon can be found at Skyhaven Temple. Head into the temple, continue up the stairs to where Alduin's Wall resides, head to the left hand side of the room through a door into a small armory section. On a table will be the weapon. Dragonbane has several versions and the item that spawns is entirely dependent on the player's level. The weapon has a max rank when the player is level 46 or higher. Dragonbane bears the unique damage to dragons enchantment which the weapon cannot be disenchanted to learn. Dragonbane, depending on the player's level when acquiring the blade, has a damage between 10 and 14 as well as a weight of 10 to 14. At the highest level, the weapon deals 40 points of extra damage to dragons as well as dealing 10 points of extra damage to other enemies. Next up is Eduj. This weapon is a unique Nord hero sword. This weapon is given as a quest reward after completing the quest Silence Tongues within Volunruud. Open the ceremonial door within Volunruud and fight Knell the Tongue. After he has been killed, you can loot the weapon from his corpse. The weapon has identical stats to that of normal Nord hero sword, however comes with a frost damage enchantment. Upon a successful hit, the weapon will deal 10 points of frost damage to both health and stamina. Next up is the Gauldur Blackblade. This weapon is a unique ancient Nord sword. This weapon is given as a quest reward during the quest Forbidden Legends. Although you have to go to multiple locations during this quest, you will find this weapon at Volgunfer. Make your way through the dungeon to the very end until you face Mikro Golderson. Kill him and loot the weapon from his corpse. The Blackblade has several versions and the item that spawns is entirely dependent on the player's level. The weapon has a max rank when the player is level 36 or higher. The weapon has a damage increase from 8 to 11, however comes at the cost of a higher weight from 12 to 15. The weapon also bears the Absorb Health enchantment, which at max rank will absorb 25 points of health from a target. Next up is the Ghostblade. This weapon is a unique ancient Nord sword. This weapon is given as the quest reward when completing the quest A Love Beyond Death within Ansilvund. Fight your way through the dungeon and defeat Lua Al Skaven at the very end. Upon her death, the spirits of Fury and Holgeir will be free and they will give you the weapon as a reward.
Now we can rest in peace once again. Come, Fury, my love.
Take this with our gratitude.
Ghostblade has identical damage to that of a normal ancient Nord sword, however has a lower weight from 12 to 1. The weapon bears a unique enchantment which the weapon cannot be disenchanted to learn. Ghostblade, in addition to its base damage, also deals 3 points of extra damage that ignores an enemy's armour. Next up is Grimsever. This weapon is a unique glass sword. This weapon is initially a quest item but can be found before initiating the quest to retrieve the weapon as long as you are level 14 or above. This weapon can be found within the Dwarven ruins of Mace. To start the quest, head on over to Riften and speak to Miol the Lioness. Ask her about her endeavours where she will mention how she lost her sword. You can then offer to retrieve the sword for her, which will start the quest.
Many years ago I lost my blade, Grimsever, within a Dwemer ruin. I took it as a sign that I was wasting my days in search of wealth. I couldn't ask you to undertake such a treacherous journey. It would be a fool's errand. But I see that spark in your eye, and I know better than to warn you away. Grimsever rests within the Dwemer ruin of Mehrunes. Tread carefully, friend. Those same ruins almost took my life.
Fight your way through the ruins and the weapon can be found just before a Centurion. Return the weapon to Miol and she will then become available to be a companion. If you give her a better weapon in her inventory, she will equip it, which you can then go into her inventory and take the non-quest Grimsever for yourself. Grimsever has identical stats to that of a normal glass sword, however also bears a frost damage enchantment. Upon a successful hit, Grimsever will deal 15 points of frost damage to an enemy's health and stamina. Next up is Hjalti's sword. This weapon is the ancient Nord sword. This weapon is a quest item, so if you wish to keep this weapon you cannot turn the quest in. To start the quest, head on over to Old Hroldan. Enter the inn and rent the room of Tiber Septon.
Have a good rest. It's the big room with the double bed.
Sleep in the bed, and once you awake you will hear the barmaid scream. Ask her what the screaming was and she will announce that she saw a ghost in the inn.
There's a ghost just wandering around my inn like it owned the place.
The ghost will then walk around the inn. Go over and speak to him and tell him you will retrieve Hjalti's sword for him. Head to that location, fight your way through, and the sword will most likely be in an end of dungeon chest. Despite being a unique weapon, all stats are identical to that of a normal ancient Nord sword. Next up is the Nightingale blade. This weapon is its own unique weapon and is given as a quest reward during the Thieves Guild quest Hard Answers. Head through the Thieves Guild questline until you get to the quest. Upon finishing the quest and returning to Carlias, she will give you the blade as a reward.
I'll make for Riften and scout the situation. See if I can discover what Mercer's up to. When you're ready, meet me at the Ragged Flagon. In the meantime, I wanted you to have this. It belonged to Gallus, but given the circumstances, I think he'd approve.
The blade has several versions and the item that spawns is entirely dependent on the player's level. At the highest level, the weapon deals 14 points of base damage as well as having a weight of 15. The blade also bears the unique enchantment Nightingale's Talon. In addition to its base damage, the enchantment of the weapon also levels depending on the player's level. At the highest level, the weapon will deal 25 extra points of damage to health and stamina. Next up is Queen Freydis' sword. This weapon is a unique steel sword. This weapon is also a quest item. To start the quest, head to Windhelm and speak to the smith Ungil War Anvil. He will ask the Dragonborn to acquire the sword so we can present it to Ulfric as a gift. The sword will then spawn in one of 6 locations. Despite the sword being unique, all stats are identical to that of a normal steel sword.
Getting the real sword would be even better than making a copy, but no one wants to risk getting it from its resting place. If you find that sword, Traveler, I'd be grateful.
Next up are the 2 Red Eagle swords, Red Eagle's Bane and Red Eagle's Fury. Both of these weapons are unique ancient Nord swords and can be found during the quest The Legend of Red Eagle. To start the quest you can either read the book The Legend of Red Eagle or head to Red Eagle Redoubt to acquire the sword which will start the quest. The first version of the sword is Red Eagle's Fury. Head to Red Eagle Redoubt and kill the Forsworn that carries the blade. You can then loot the weapon from his corpse. The weapon has identical stats to that of a normal ancient Nord sword, however bears a fire damage enchantment as well. The weapon will deal 5 points of burn damage to a target upon a successful hit. The second sword, Red Eagle's Bane, can be acquired by finishing off the Red Eagle quest. Head to Rebel's Cairn, place Red Eagle's Fury into the sword slot and fight Red Eagle himself. Upon killing him and returning to the sword slot, retrieve the sword which will have transformed into Red Eagle's Bane. Red Eagle's Bane has a damage increase from 8 to 11 but comes at the cost of a higher weight from 12 to 15. In addition to this, the weapon will come with the Turn Undead enchantment where undead up to level 13 will flee from battle and will be set on fire. Next up is the Pale Blade. This weapon is a unique ancient Nord sword and is given as a quest reward during the quest The Pale Lady. To start the quest, head to Frostmere Crypt where you will see Eyes of Blackthorn fleeing from the crypt. She will briefly explain what has happened and will leave the area. Fight your way through the crypt until you get to an outside section. The Pale Lady will appear and kill the final bandit. Defeat her and you can loot the Pale Blade from the corpse of the bandit. The blade has several versions and the item that spawns is entirely dependent on the player's level. At the highest level, the weapon deals 11 points of base damage as well as having a weight of 15. The blade also bears the unique enchantment Ice Terror, to which this weapon cannot be disenchanted to learn. In addition to its base damage, the enchantment of the weapon also levels depending on the player's level. At the highest level, the weapon will make creatures and people up to level 16 flee from battle for 30 seconds. Additionally, the weapon will deal 25 points of frost damage to a target's health and 50 points to a target's stamina. The final sword is Windshear. This weapon is a unique scimitar. Please note that this weapon cannot be obtained unless you have joined the Dark Brotherhood. If you have chosen to destroy them, then this weapon will become unobtainable. To acquire this weapon, you will need to progress to the final Dark Brotherhood quest, Hail Sithis. Once you start this quest, head into the Kataraya and fight your way through the top of the boat. Instead of entering the Emperor's quarters, take the door onto the deck. Once here, climb the mast and stuck within the wood at the very end will be the weapon. Despite being unique, Windshear has identical stats to that of a normal scimitar. The blade also bears a unique enchantment to which this weapon cannot be disenchanted to learn. The weapon has a chance to paralyze an enemy when block bashing a target. Additionally, and more useful, is the stagger enchantment on the blade. Despite the weapon saying it has a chance to stagger enemies upon a hit, the weapon actually has a 100% chance to stagger an enemy upon a hit. This means the weapon can keep enemies in a constant stagger, allowing you to kill them without being able to do any sort of damage to you. Next up are the unique war axes. The first war axe is a ceremonial axe. This weapon is a unique ancient Nord axe. This weapon is a unique item and can be found inside Valdr. During the side quest Silenced Tongues, you will need to acquire 2 weapons, one of them being the axe within the ruin. Despite it being a unique weapon, all stats are identical to that of a normal ancient Nord axe. Next up is the Notched Pickaxe. This weapon is a unique pickaxe. Please note that you won't be able to acquire this weapon officially until you've started the main story quest, The Throat of the World. Despite this, it is relatively easy to get around the windshield blocking the path. Head to the Throat of the World and make your way up to the peak of the mountain. Embedded in an ebony orb will be the weapon. Despite being unique, the weapon has identical stats to that of a normal pickaxe. The weapon also bears a unique enchantment to which this weapon cannot be disenchanted to learn. Upon equipping the weapon, it will increase your smithing skill by 5 points. Furthermore, the weapon will deal 5 points of shock damage to an enemy upon a successful hit. Next up is Oakin. Oakin is a unique ancient Nord war hero axe. This weapon is given as a quest reward on completing the quest Silenced Tongues within Valdr. Open the ceremonial door within Valdr and fight Kvanel the Tongue. After he has been killed, you can loot the weapon from his corpse. Despite being unique, the weapon has identical stats to that of a normal Nord hero war axe. The weapon also comes with a frost damage enchantment, dealing 10 points of frost damage to health and stamina upon a successful hit. Next up is the Poacher's Axe. The axe is a unique Woodcutters Axe and can be found at the Halted Stream camp. Head into the mine and make your way into the main camp where some bandits are butchering a mammoth. Kill all the bandits and on one of them will be the weapon. Despite being unique, the weapon has identical stats to that of a normal Woodcutter's Axe. The weapon also comes with the unique Huntsman's Prowess enchantment, which unlike most of the unique enchantments can actually be disenchanted to learn. In addition to its base damage, the weapon will also deal 3 points of extra damage to animals upon a successful hit. The final war axe and weapon is Ulfric's Axe. This axe is a unique steel axe. This weapon is also a quest item, so if you wish to keep this weapon you cannot turn the quest in. To start the quest, the player must side with the Stormcloaks during the Civil War quest line. Continue fighting for the Stormcloaks until Ulfric sets his eyes on Whiterun. He will then give you the axe to present to Jarl Balgruuf as a message.
To the Jarl of Whiterun. Deliver this axe to Balgruuf the Greater. Yes, an axe. How long have you been in Skyrim? Give the man my axe. If he keeps it, I will bide my time. If he returns it to you, it means war.
The weapon has a slightly damage increase from 9 to 10, however all other stats are identical to that of a normal war axe. And there we have my all unique 100 weapons guide within Skyrim. I hope you find this video helpful and as always, thank you for watching.